for the record, Riley Allen with the Department of Public Service. Yeah, in its current form, in the form that I saw, I don't have the number on it. I would say that we don't support it in its current form. In our minds, it needs to provide county-level information. If there isn't a mechanism for providing county-level information, then this doesn't provide much value to the planning process that we want to support. So that's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you. I assume if we came up with the money to hire 3 or 4 more staff to put everything together, we might get there. But right now, I'm feeling very frugal looking at the national and wondering about next year around here. So
Thank you.
probably aren't going to hire staff. Okay. All right. Oh, we're only
Just use
3 minutes. 3 minutes behind. Okay, yeah, but this is the fun one. Not really. Okay. S.190. Luke, you're back up. No.
So now we're turning to S.190, and all of you should have a document in your file that is again a strike-all amendment. It is labeled draft number 1, S.190 in the upper left-hand corner. The
Yep.
date is 2/27/2020. And what this was is you'll see that there's text that's underlined in yellow. So if you remember the last time this was on, which I think was February 26th in the committee, there was suggested language from the Department of Public Service, and McNamara testified. The committee made a decision to take that language and incorporate it into the bill, so I did a strike-all amendment that incorporates that language. That is the highlighted language that you see beginning on page 3, continuing on page 4, and then also on page 5. The language that is not in yellow is language that was in the original as introduced bill. And let me back up for a second. I should have said, beginning, this is the bill pertaining to the Ryegate plant, just to ground you all.
That
Sorry
really helps a lot.
For jumping, no, I'm sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. Now,
This is the Ryegate
there also were 2 other stakeholders. I think it was Natural Resources Defense Council
Yeah.
and another stakeholder who were looking at additional language, which they subsequently submitted to me, but that had not been vetted in the committee. So I did not add that to this draft.
Do you have it with you?
They're here, and I did forward it to the chair. They're here. I think they could testify
Okay.
as to it. I didn't include it in this draft because you hadn't
Yeah.
discussed it yet or looked at it yet, so I think it was appropriate to throw it in at this point.
Okay, so there was some talk about forest management.
That I think
that's
is
what hasn't been
the other
added
language,
in.
yes.
Okay.
This includes the language you looked at last time. You agreed to be put in the bill. That was from the public service.
Okay. Yes,
Speaking of which.
that, he's here. He's on a roll.
Do you have any other questions for me?
Any questions at this point? Okay,
Is there,
yes.
is there any language in here that report where the wood actually came from?
That's what's coming next, I think.
Okay.
All right,
Then we'll
so
wait.
I don't have anybody else on my agenda, but Chuck, you're here, and I know Jamie Fidel, you're representing Ryegate.
I am.
Is there an agreement?
There is.
Oh, okay, all right, Pat, said you can't be in, you're in a, no, we're passing stuff out.
And I'll get you.
Yes, on what's in the other file.
Okay, good afternoon, Chuck Storrow, Leon Public Affairs, here on behalf of Ryegate Associates. Yes, we have been in conversations with DNRC about some language that they would like, and I've endeavored in this document to include what we've agreed upon along with what the Department of Public Service was looking for, and which was just presented to you by Mr. Martland. Jamie Fidel is not here today, he's out of town, I guess, so I've copied him on this, and I do believe it tracks what we've agreed to, and let me explain what we're up to here. Basically, the new language would be over on the third page, a new subsection K, which would task the Agency of Commerce and Community Development to investigate the feasibility of using the excess heat from the plant. Basically, we've already taken a look at that issue, and we've had communications with the Northeastern Vermont Development Association, which is a regional development corporation. They're really interested in this issue, and in fact, they applied for a USDA grant to get money to hire a consultant to look at that issue. So we roped them into this study too. We've spoken with the administration, and they're okay with ACCD's involvement. Basically, this would just involve, taking a look at the feasibility of finding a co-host at the site so that they could use the plant excess heat, and then to report back to the legislature by January 15, 2022 in that regard.
Okay, and all the rest of the underlined in here up until the new section K is in the bill as we have it, or?
It's I believe it's in what Mr. Martland just presented to you, yes. Although with one change, I don't have a paper copy of that, but if you look over on the last page in the new proposed L, in the proceeding provided for in subsection D, which is the proceeding the PUC will conduct to set the rate at which the utilities have to buy the power, the commission shall consider whether...
John, can you just slow down 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
so we
Okay,
can make
we've
sure
got
we're-
J, so K you just presented to us,
Right.
which is a study.
Yeah.
And now we're going on to L.
On the very
And can I
last-
assume that that is on behalf of Ryegate?
It's basically reflects an agreement between Ryegate and VNRC that would have the PUC look at the harvesting practices associated with A&R, would provide input, and any recommendations from A&R on that issue would be incorporated in the PUC's order.
Okay. So,
And
those are
VNRC
things that were discussed in here the other day, the inefficiency of wood and all that heat's just going somewhere. And the sustainable forest practices in harvesting. So this encompasses both of those. Then we have an add proposed findings.
And this is something that VNRC wanted. It isn't something we're necessarily looking for, but it doesn't, we don't oppose it. It's a finding that essentially it would be a good idea to explore the issue of using the heat so that the plant's more efficient, and it goes to the issue of climate change.
Okay.
So what does it do exactly?
It's just, it says, it is in the interest of the state to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. A woody biomass plant used to satisfy the baseload renewable power portfolio requirement, i.e. the Ryegate plant, shall explore the feasibility of and implement to the greatest degree possible the utilization of excess thermal energy to offset greenhouse gas emissions and maximize the efficient use of biomass resources. It's just a finding, and we don't object to that.
Okay.
But I think it's necessary in light of the study report, but if they wanted it, then we're fine.
Okay, and then the transition provision.
The transition provision has been in, that's actually, I think, in the bill itself. It should be.
Okay, our
that's
drafter
just-
says yes, okay.
You said that Ryegate had done a feasibility analysis or something, right?
No,
Using excess heat?
No, we have been talking to the Regional Development Corporation about this issue. They've applied for a grant from the federal government to hire a consultant to do that feasibility.
And we're waiting on that grant.
We're waiting on that grant, but we're calling for, in this language, a study by ACCD in connection with that regional.
Is there anything at the physical plant, as far as you understand, that would prevent that excess heat from being used?
No, I think it's a matter of money and engineering. I mean, it'd be, you'd have to, somebody would have to figure out how to get the heat from the plant to wherever it's gonna go. If it's planned land, to put something there, it's just a matter of the economics of whether that's feasible. And it would depend on exactly, going forward and what their needs are, what kind of physical, work would have to be done.
And Ryegate is not necessarily a bustling hub of development, so it's finding someone that
Right.
wants to develop and
And-
needs to heat at Ryegate.
And the overall window here is for a decade, right?
That's
For
right.
the next decade. And
12 years.
yeah, but they're already operating until 22. I mean, I'll be honest, where I'm coming from, absent some use of that excess heat, I don't see as this is great policy for us. I get it's not simple. There are things that I totally support, including strengthening our wood product industry and a use for low-grade lumber. But is it fair to assume that if we were to say that this kind of concept goes forward, but it only lasts 5 years unless there is, a plan underway to use the excess heat, that you guys would oppose it?
I would say yes, Senator. I mean, I think the problem is that we need some degree of certainty over a 10-year period of time in order to continue to make the investments that we need to keep the plant operating. And we're keen on finding a way for that heat to be utilized, but because it's so uncertain, we're not at a point or position to make any guarantees and to say we only get a 5-year operating period, new 5-year period. I think would not be accepted by our clients on this. So, it's the best we can do at this particular point in time. And, the value of the plant as a baseload renewable energy source that supplements, solar power, intermittent renewable sources, I think is a factor to be taken into consideration in considering this heat issue. It fits well in the energy mix as a renewable source because it is a baseload.
On any topic.
On the topic that's on the table.
Asked several times on where the wood actually comes from. We keep getting estimates. So would this be an appropriate place to put the trip ticket on there so that instead of getting estimates in the future, there'll actually be a record of where wood comes from and where it gets delivered?
Yeah, I mean-
I have a feeling that's probably outside Mr. Storrow's domain. That's a whole logging industry issue, right?
It would probably be, I think, a good spot.
Maybe Mr. Storrow choose not to comment.
Senator, are you proposing or suggesting that there be sort of tracking where the wood comes from?
Yeah.
I think we do that already.
I know you've given us a map with spots where it
Right.
comes from, but you wanna know how much leaves the wood lot in orange and how much is delivered, lest there's some slippage along the way?
Well, get Senator Storrow to come in and tell us about slippage. She's got a lot of anecdotes about that.
I'm sure.
Um,
I don't have
One of
time.
the reasons for going forward on this is that it keeps Vermont foresters and loggers in business. And we say, what percentage of the wood actually comes from Vermont, how much comes from Maine, how much comes from New Hampshire, and we get estimates. And sometimes witnesses have, you know, what happened in the last 2 weeks is different from someone asking a question what happened in the last year or two. There doesn't seem to be any concrete answer to that question.
Turning to Sam, we know where the wood comes from, do we not?
Trucks.
Just introduce yourself for the record.
Sam Lincoln, Deputy Commissioner. I can't speak to where Ryegate is getting their wood from. They do have a notification process that they follow. I'll pass that back to Mr. Storrow.
Sorry. I believe we know where the wood comes from because we told the committee the last time we were here, 60 to 70% of it comes from the farm.
Yes.
And so, you know, subject to saying otherwise perhaps in the House, I don't think there's a problem with the requirement that we keep track of where the wood comes from.
Well, that's what trip tickets do.
Well, I think most of us are not familiar with
When you're driving a truckload of wood, you got a piece of paper in there that says where it came from and where it's going, and the copy goes to, forget where.
Okay.
In other states, they have, that's what they have.
Commissioner.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to, perhaps it'll be helpful, just to
Good.
level set on this. For the record, Michael Snyder, Commissioner of Forest Parks and Recreation. The Ryegate Power Station currently, as well as BED, the McNeil Station, all chip harvests in the state are required to have notification through Fish and Wildlife. So all harvests in the state that result in chipwood going to either plant are notified. And it's tracked and that exists currently. There's
Okay.
no proposal to change that.
So when we ask how much wood comes from Vermont, we get the answer of 60 to 70%. And I don't, if they have the records, why is there a mysterious 10% that's
I think maybe you asked that of a witness who didn't have the opportunity to go back and check the records, and it does depend on the week, the day, the month, how much. But
I've been doing it for 28 years, and we get 60 to 70% as an answer.
are you implying that the 10% is slippage?
It's
Why can't we know that it's 64%? Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
On what day?
Well, at least per year.
A year.
Okay, per year. Can we know that?
I can certainly ask and try and find out.
Does that have to go in a bill?
Yeah.
I'd support it.
Luke, can you add that?
I think the commissioner would have the most helpful language on how to do that.
Who would you like the commissioner to report that to?
I will speak. Well, one is that when it goes on a truck and it is delivered to a user,
Yeah.
that there is a record on the truck with the, used to use carbon paper, several copies, and one of them goes to the person
I
who
think now it's on computer.
sold the wood, and
Okay.
knows where the truck's going.
I think this may be more general topics here.
Is the committee, and I took a liberty of throwing up a draft basically
Yeah.
on Mr. Storrow's language. You would like to add something about tracking wood? Okay, and who do you want to have this reported to? Or just have them track it and have it available?
The person who sent the wood on the truck gets a receipt that the truck showed up where the enterprise said we delivered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
I guess
want,
I'm hearing different things. I thought a member of the administration said the data's already there. So that's.
I think
that's what I'm
there's
trying to
not a
clarify.
I think this may be coming in more from when you have your woodlot harvested. If you get a slip that says X board feet or whatever they measure it by, was taken from your woodlot, And then you get a copy that says the same amount of X board feet was delivered to the sawmill, in this case, Ryegate. Because there's been allegations that more wood gets put on a truck than the owner gets paid for. I'm not sure that that is an issue that should be dealt with on this bill. And I'm not sure this is board foot lumber, it's chips. And how do you measure chips?
By tons.
By tons? I assume that's done like, the truck holds on average 24 tons?
No, they wait.
You weigh them, all
They
right.
weigh 'em, yeah.
They
I'd
weigh.
like to see it in this bill if possible, Madam Chair. I mean, this is something our committee's, well,
Yeah, but this is finance, why hasn't your committee, this has been an
We
issue
just don't
for
have this
years,
bill.
why hasn't this been dealt with
this
in
is
the natural?
this is the perfect bill to do it.
And what is natural resources, who is the people blocking why this hasn't happened before, going to say about this
No,
bill?
it's,
I think they're gonna like
You
it.
sent an ad, you did the
It
block.
was Senate, yeah, was it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's presenting this bill on the floor and going to have fun with Senator Starr? Okay. Do you have a bill that we could just attach to this?
We've had the amendment before.
Yeah.
They can dig it up.
I don't think Brady probably has an amendment.
Probably less time than it would take to get an accurate answer on how much
Okay,
chips
so
come from Vermont instead of New
now
Hampshire
that
and Maine.
now that we've decided that you're going to talk to Michael O'Grady and the commissioner and bring us an amendment, which we can consider, we have some much more kind of weighty
I had
amendments.
one more question.
So thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have one more question.
Bill.
The submitted language from the last witness had
Yes.
findings. I did not add that in because there's no
Right.
findings currently, and of course, findings have no legal import. Do you want, but I can add those in, do you want findings in this bill or not?
Oh, and that's a finding? Add proposed finding?
So I added the other
Yeah, it
items, but
doesn't
not
go
the
into law,
findings.
there's no findings on there, right?
Currently, that is
No.
accurate. The question is, do you want a finding section with that paragraph?
No, it doesn't go into law. Okay. So other than the findings, the transition is already in there.
That's already,
Everybody
Yep.
else has agreed, I'm assuming. Anyone that's not agreed on the rest of this proposed amendment, forever hold your peace.
I'm not sure where I stand, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to see the heat used, but given the instability of the economy, to tell them if they don't have a buyer and a produced thing, or a buyer for their heat, which means somebody who's gotta build something and have money in a set number of years, I think I'd like to make sure they are proceeding in good faith to find a buyer, but I don't know that they can control
Well,
the
that's-
outcome.
But we're controlling whether or not they get a subsidy from ratepayers to
Yes.
stay open, so,
We're looking, would we say 50 million, is that right?
50 in 10 years, yeah.
Well, renewable power.
Maybe less when ash becomes, maybe more when
Right,
ash becomes
right.
cheaper and cheaper.
Okay. This is
It's a
not
tough one.
natural resources.
Right.
This is utility regulation. If it has to, we can strip out everything to do with forest management.
I was trying to answer the question, Madam Chair, on the thermal heat.
Yeah.
There's, thermal heat is, if there were somebody right next door, where you could take the excess heat, which is there's a heck of a lot of excess heat when you're using the heat for thermal to begin with, for electricity. And I don't want to send them on a wild goose chase to try and justify it. Because we could haul in 50 trailers and heat them all with some hot water. I think the notion of making electricity out of wood is silly and not cost effective, but if you're gonna do this, don't make it more silly and more uncost effective by having to go out and make a study that determines that there's no practical use around a Ryegate plant for the disposal of the heat anyway.
I think they've
Rather
said
find out.
the regional planning, whatever they're called, is looking into this because they recognize that issue.
If it
And
turns
they're
out
trying to
be
get a
profitable,
grant, yeah.
they could recommend.
Okay, can we ask Luke to draft this, what we've got, what he presented to us, plus everything but the findings here, and then look forward to an amendment from the natural resources representatives?
Yes.
I got this as a strike goal, to add into the strike goal, what Senator McDonald's talking about, or are you talking about a later
A
amendment?
later amendment which we can attach
Okay, so
to
this
the-
has already been done.
and
Do you have
include,
that?
and include this.
Yes, it's already
Yeah.
done, so
Okay.
do you have that?
I do have it, do you need copies? I don't have copies.
That's up to the committee, it's not been posted on the website. 'Cause
Yeah, I
didn't
think,
want that, but-
well, we haven't
We've already done
approved it, but, I think we can post that, will be coming up for consideration. We can do that, and then, I'm trying to think of how to deal with the amendment. I would like to start, well, this one we don't have to have out till next week either. So we can wait for the
This one
amendment.
came to, this one is our.
Let's start
our-
with this.
Yeah,
It started here?
yes.
Okay, yes, no, this is Ryegate.
Yeah.
I'm getting back to energy efficiency, you're right. It's the other energy efficiency that didn't start here. Okay, we can hand out what we just decided on. And then we can do a floor amendment if you bring it
We
to
can do
us.
it in here if it's, we're authorizing a subsidy of Vermont
Okay,
wood chips
so you want,
estimated at a
okay,
percentage yet undocumented.
So-
I think it ties into the.
well, we've been heard that it is tracked, but, and Commissioner, how is it tracked? Can you tell us, or is that something you could?
I can try, Madam Chair. Again, Michael Snyder, Commissioner FDR. What I was referencing earlier is not that, doesn't necessarily answer Senator McDonald's question. How, where's the wood coming from? What I was simply stating so everybody understood is that there is an account, given that chipwood requires notification to the Fish and Wildlife Department. It has for decades. And so all harvests in Vermont that send wood to McNeil or Ryegate go through that notification process.
So
That-
they
that exists.
notify
So they have
Fish
to.
and
They do
Wildlife.
maps, and Commissioner Ford can speak to it better, but they have foresters on staff that are, compliance foresters.
Okay.
And they notify the Fish and Wildlife Department, and Fish and Wildlife biologists and other employees engaged, look
Okay.
at maps, visit the site, confer whether there's necessary wildlife habitat or impacts. They mitigate, they avoid, and they plan for it to go forward. So they know where it happened and what the nature of the operation was. I don't know that they require any volumes.
Okay,
Intensity
so-
of marketing, again,
I can
Commissioner
speak
Ford.
to that very
Yeah.
briefly, Madam Chair. Louis Porter, Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife. So what we do is the CPG given to both plants requires that we inspect the sites or have oversight of the sites to see what the impact on wildlife habitat is of these
Okay,
harvests.
so they
That
can't
doesn't
just-
mean we are tracking
Okay,
chip by chip. There is typically an estimate of what we expect to come off the site, but that's a rough estimate.
okay,
Our part of this is not monitoring where exactly the wood comes from on a ton by
You're for
ton
the
basis, but
habitat.
protecting the habitat. Does that help?
so you got a truck out in the woods and you're blowing chips into it, where would that, could you say a truckload, or where would that get weighed or measured, or?
The receiving mill, generally, wherever it's going, that's the point of measurement is at the next stop.
Okay.
They go to a mill, they drive onto scales, there's a tear weight, there's paperwork. That's true for whether it's chips or board feed, as you mentioned. But in this world, the energy wood, it's either moving in as chips or round wood to be chipped on site. However it travels, it gets weighed, and it's paid for and tracked by
By the weight.
Yeah.
So what we don't have in Senator McDonald's desire is anything that says how much chipwood left the site, whereas,
I thought he was asking, where does their wood come from? Which is a different question. I think maybe why I was.
I think they're trying to solve two different problems. One is it's the widow lady who has 1,000 foot taken off, gets paid for 900. She's given it, she doesn't have a slip that says they sold 1,000 to the mill in New Hampshire. So we know, but with chipwood,
Same thing.
but do you weigh board feet?
Oh, wait.
I'm just trying to figure out how you get a measurement in, if that guy's gonna stop and unload some chipwood somewhere else before going to Ryegate.
When you unload logs,
Yeah, we're not doing that.
there's, pardon?
But this isn't long.
Well, you get when you sell the logs, you get a board foot
Yeah,
number.
Right.
When you sell chips, you get a pounds number. And there should be trip tickets for either one of those, whether the widow is selling logs or selling chips.
but the chips are done by pound, and my question is, how do you weigh the pounds in the woods?
You weigh it when it's unloaded off the truck.
You do that now.
But there's,
I'd love to help, Madam Chair, I would rather than guess. I mean, if there's direct questions, we'll do everything we can to give you a straight answer.
I'm not
Just
sure
not sure where
that
we're going.
the problem that the members from Natural Resources are trying to solve is a problem that is directly related to this particular bill.
no, some little old ladies sell part of their cut as logs.
Yes.
Part of their cut as chips. And in either case, if the GPS is wrong and the truck driver accidentally delivers it to the wrong place, she's gonna have a record of where it showed up. Not through a third party, not through the truckers, whatever, it should be a record of the place where the wood goes, to the little old lady that sold it. And that does not take place in Vermont today.
No.
It does in other states. And some folks who operate, the middle persons are offended at the notion that we would need to have this,
Okay.
documented for delivery of product, and have opposed it for many years.
Senator, I think I sent you some emails and asked you to deal with this issue this past summer.
You've been selling
No.
wood too?
No, I gotta have mules do my thing. I'm told I've got some
So
good hardwood, but
would
the mules
perhaps
aren't happy.
If we come back to the language, then that would answer people's questions, and we can stop speculating
Yes.
around the table here. for the
I'm
next few
not,
minutes.
I don't wanna see this bill get lost, because I have a feeling if it's been too controversial between ag and natural resources,
Ag has not even looked at this or considered
No.
this all year.
that's what I mean. And so if we do this trip ticket thing, which is controversial because it hasn't happened, onto this bill, I don't wanna see all those logging trucks. I remember the day they all logged up in the front of the State House.
For Cheryl Rivers.
Yeah, Cheryl Rivers' car.
That was
And, I don't wanna have my car jackhammered either. But.
Others don't do that anymore.
You're right.
No,
I don't want, yeah.
you don't see it.
So anyway.
Appropriations. Sarah's started.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna see this bill because it's getting into territory that is not our domain, that we did not have time to take testimony
This
on.
is finance, don't we have control over everything?
No,
That's why I asked to be here.
if we're going to add this on, I'm going to have to let every affected party.
I understand.
Now, if you guys would like to bring your sleeping bags, we can do that. A sleepover. And I'm not supplying the pizza. So. You can draft it. We will post it, and then we'll see what kind of an
17
output we
sleeping.
get. All right? Other than that, do we want to pass this bill out now and then await an amendment, which we can put on if we so choose, or it can go to a floor amendment if we don't so choose? Does that
Are you
sound?
asking us to vote on this right now?
Luke has it,
I have a copy for you.
and we have a copy,
And can I ask
Of
a
the-
question?
Bill, with all the things we just agreed upon added in.
This is draft number
Yes.
2 in the upper left-hand corner.
Says, yeah, rather
Read
than-
that, 20.
Or we can let it hold
Well,
over
I'm
till
just wondering, I don't
tomorrow.
wanna ask, because if I ask this, I just don't want you to give me that look.
No,
I just have one
I
question.
am not your mother, what?
I know. If, for example, this were not to pass,
Yes,
what exactly are the consequences? Something, Ryegate closes possibly, and it's replaced with,
well, I
I'm just
think,
trying to get,
I think what's happening is that Ryegate is up for sale.
Uh-huh.
And that knowing what's going to happen to it for the future makes it more or less saleable. You don't like to buy a pig in a poke. So
I see.
I don't think somebody's gonna wanna buy it at X purchase price if we're likely to shut it down in 2 years.
So my house, which is somewhat accurate, not in great shape, and I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to put it on the market, like Ryegate. To help it sell, legislature's gonna put in some money to help.
No, it's
Yeah,
gonna,
they-
well,
it's a contract.
It's the contract.
We're gonna extend the contract so they know how long the contract is good for, rather than that they buy it in year 1 and have to renegotiate in year 2. So I'm
yeah.
gonna give it 24 hours, cause
Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
would like to give us a 5-minute only break.
Okay,
So we
thank
can
you.
all go wash our hands.
Thank you.
And Luke, tomorrow, we will vote this out.
Thank you.
Or bring your sleeping bags. Okay, 5 minutes, because we are now behind.
I know, yes.
And we're going to get to the fun one next. And I'm leaving. And I want